Hello there, this is Kermit the Frog.
Fascinating.
I'm Captain Kirk.
Magic is always there, as long as we keep looking for it.
Engage.
What does God need with a starship?
Thank you, love you. Mwah.
I protest. I am not a merry man.
Places, please, and here we go.
Down at Fraggle Rock.
Welcome, doozers, antikins, trash heaps, and things to episode 147 of the MuppeTrek Podcast. I'm Steve.
And I'm Jarman, and we're on a journey across the stars to compare and contrast the creative worlds of Jim Henson and Gene Roddenberry.
What started out as reviews of The Muppet Show and Star Trek the Original Series has expanded into outer space.
And this week we have Fraggle Rock episode Wembley's Egg and Star Trek The Next Generation episode Manhunt. But before we do that, Steve, you know what I want to do? Huh?
Ooh.
I want to rock.
There are all kinds of gems, jewels, and geodes in the world, many of which can be found in Fraggle Rock. This week's gem is Bustamite, named after Anastasio Bustamante, who was a Mexican politician and a big advocate for the sciences in the early 1800s. And then he was the fourth president of Mexico. So Bustamante. It ranges in colors from pinks to reds to kind of like amber browns. It is a very, very soft gem, so it's rarely ever seen in jewelry and only in complete collections. But in lore, Bustamite was used to detect danger or evil, supposedly losing its shine and luster when danger was nearby. So that's Bustamite, and that rocks.
That does rock.
I want to rock!
Interesting stories.
But what's going down in Fraggle Rock? Well, what's up, Doc? It's Sprocket's birthday. Banners are hung, balloons are blown up, but Doc doesn't seem to notice. Gobo goes to get Uncle Traveling Matt postcard, and Sprocket is just depressed and kind of watches him. Because Gobo marvels at the decorations, saying that whoever they're all for sure is lucky, which only depresses Sprocket further.
Oh.
Doc finally realizes it and pulls out a gift that was out on the table all along. But what's going down in the Rock? Well, Wembley watches his friends, everyone sort of demonstrating their various skills and specialties, but he's depressed. He asks Boober for help seeking direction for what he should do. But then fate falls out of the sky. An egg lands in the water, the Fraggle pool. Wembley tries to explain that he knows he's seen this. There's a baby animal in there, but the other Fraggles think he's full of it. They get the egg out of the water, but Wembley becomes protective, and he sits on the egg to prevent the other Fraggles from moving it and killing the creature inside. Wembley sings to the egg, Light of the Moon. It's a sweet lullaby-like song. The egg eventually hatches, and the little bird inside attaches immediately to Wembley, thinking it's his mama. He tries to feed the baby, but it hates all of the Fraggle foods. Wembley leaves the baby bird to go to the Gorg's garden to find food. He goes first to Boober, who's making artichoke souffle. Wembley steals it. Gobo then discovers the baby bird, the tree creature, in his bed. The bird hates even more food. Moki shows up and tells them that they need to feed the baby bird seeds. She's seen this before. Her and Wembley go to find seeds, and Gobo goes to get Uncle Traveling Matt's postcard from outer space. The baby bird runs amok without supervision, knocking Red into the water and wrecking the kitchen. Boober and Red are outraged. The baby bird finally eats, but it is miserable. Gobo cheers it up by reading it the postcard, where the silly creatures this week live side by side with flying creatures, just like Fraggles. That's when Wembley realizes the creature wants to fly, and Wembley has to teach it to fly. We get the song Fly to the Sky as Wembley follies through the attempt. Wembley then heads to the Gorg's garden to watch the birds fly so he can teach the baby. That's when he sees how sad the bird parents are. Wembley reluctantly decides to return the baby flying creature to its parents. Gobo hops in to help. He heads to outer space and steals some of those balloons. They fashion a basket with helium balloons on it. The baby bird begins to float away up out of the well. He is reunited with his parents, and we have a happy family reunion. In the Gorg's garden this week, Junior sees two birds doting over their eggs. He somehow inadvertently kind of tosses the egg down the well, saying that he's going to save it for his daddy. He's very happy about this. And the birds attack him, and then they are depressed. Junior declares war on the birds as they like cry and lament their lost child. It's the Gorg's garden was kind of depressing this week. So Jarman, what did you think of this week's episode of Fraggle Rock? The first episode of season 2.
That's right. It was a good entry as the first episode because it's back to like, there were some depressing parts of your parents crying and stuff, but otherwise it was very cute and happy. And, but I am upset that we start off immediately with Wembley getting made fun of by his friends yet again. I'm like, poor
just
Wembley.
Getting crapped on.
Yeah. And you should know by now, by season 2, you should know to believe your friends when they tell you something because they're telling the truth. You should support them. And no matter what, they're your friends. But
that's
also,
right. That is the lesson.
That's right. Unless they kill somebody.
Unless that happens, yes.
It's the first time I think we've ever seen creatures in the Gorg world besides the trash heap and her friends. So we see these birds. So it implies there's like a whole world of wildlife out there that's also huge, that kind of lives out there.
There was a bird in one other episode last season because it sang in one of the trash heap songs.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Okay, so you're right. There is wider wildlife hinted at.
And they're all huge. So that's pretty cool.
Huge compared to the Fraggles, certainly.
Yes. Oh, but I wanted to ask you if you can think offhand from Wembley's first song, what makes me so mad about his first song? It has to do with the lyrics and the title.
I don't know.
What's the title
now
of the
you got
song?
me thinking about it. Oh my God. Light of the Moon.
Yes. Why does that make me very angry?
Because the moon doesn't actually make its own light? Are you mad for science reasons?
No, because the other episode, he said you can lie out and have the moonlight hit you. And in the previous episodes, they kept thinking the moon was just in the water.
The moon was, yeah, that's right, showed up in their Fraggle pool.
So that pisses me off. I'm like, they do know what the moon is. It's not just a reflection of the water. It can shine upon you while you're lying down on the ground.
Hey. No, I think you're thinking about this wrong, okay? So they went through that experience and they all learned that the moon was real canonically in that episode.
Did they learn that in that episode?
I think that's what they learned.
Okay, good.
This happens off screen.
Yeah,
this is
off screen.
Fraggle scientists review the findings and peer review them.
They had the goal as the writers to put that in our face.
Between the seasons, Fraggle science happened, and now it is just understood that the moon is a real thing.
It's above us.
That brings us to the present.
To this song, yes. So that did piss me off a little bit. But
look, Fraggle scientists worked very hard. I think you should be pleased.
I should be pleased. Now they know. They know the moon is above.
Now they know,
and not a reflection in the water.
That's right.
But the damn title of the song. But anyways, yeah, a good episode about supporting your friends. They do come around once they realize he's telling the truth about the bird. And the music, I thought the music to the flying song was really good, but the lyrics were just kind of lazy.
They felt lazy.
Yeah. They could have done a lot better with the lyrics of that song, but because the music was great and the chorus was great. But yeah, so what do you think?
I think good for the beginning of season 2. We got to see some sort of like wider views. Like we got a new view of the Gorg's Garden we didn't get last season. We got some new sort of views of Fraggle Rock we didn't get last season. So it's cool to see the budget's grown and the repertoire of what they can do has grown. So that's exciting for what's to come. There were some really good clean effects. The like chroma key with the baby bird in the basket and the parents were all good, clean effects.
Yeah.
You got some fun Junior in there. I think if we didn't get any Doozer, we didn't get any Trash Heap.
Doozer did walk by, but didn't do anything.
Yeah. But for like a season kickoff, you would think you'd want everyone there.
Yeah, like
so that
viewers,
maybe kicks it down a little bit. But I think a good kickoff to season 2.
Yeah, good upper middle episode so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
But we got a lot more
silly
to go.
creatures up to.
Oh man, these so silly creatures this week. Uncle Charlie Matt talks about how silly creatures live side by side with flying creatures, big and small. And so, of course, they're talking about airplanes, everything from jet engines up to little propeller planes. So I've got some of the first recorded human attempts at flight here to tell you about. Let's see. So one of the first documented human flight was by a guy named Abbas ibn Firnas, which means like Abbas, great person of Firnas, I think. 9th century Spain. He was an inventor. He constructed this glider with silk and feathers that were painstakingly gathered from eagles. And he took off. He did successfully glide for, they think, less than 100 meters. But he permanently injured his back and suffered with it for the rest of his life. So not great. Then there's this monk in the 11th century, Aylmer of Malmesbury. He built these gliding wings that were kind of like teardropped in shape and jumped off of the tower in the Abbey. Reports have it, now mind you, these are spotty at best, that he flew over 200 meters, but crashed because of his lack of stability. Like he didn't put a tail on like a plane, so he was just at the whim of this. He didn't die, and in fact, it's reported that he lived to an old age because it's documented in a quote from him that he remembers seeing Halley's Comet twice in his life.
Wow. So you could see him
once
when
from
he was young,
he was
and
like
then
a kid.
very old. Yeah.
And then very old. So he even though he did this stupid flying thing in his youth, he did live a long time. And then you got Leonardo da Vinci, who made these like weird ornithopter kind of designs. One of which is like a spinning umbrella thing, and the other one is like a traditional flappy wing thing. It's crazy if you haven't looked at his designs.
Yeah.
But it is likely that none of them were ever actually built by him. While he did have a lot of theories, there's never been any sign that he actually constructed any of those flying machines that he designed, kind of.
People have since, I think, but yeah.
Yes, people have attempted it, and I think they've all failed for various reasons. Jean-Francois Pilat de Rosier from the 1700s France, he was a scientist and flew in a hot air balloon. This was the first recorded manned untethered flight in history.
Wow.
He flew over Paris for about 25 minutes before descending.
But he didn't crash. He descended.
He descended. Yeah.
Nice.
Like it was a controlled flight, stop to end. He wasn't tied to anything. He wasn't being pulled by anything and gliding or anything like that. It was the first one. But yeah, so that's what silly creatures have been doing about that for like a couple hundred years now.
Good job, guys.
We did it. So, Darren, what did you think was the best Muppeteering moment this week?
I liked that we got the birds flying off from their tree for the first time, and then when you finally get them in perspective in the same shot, close up with Junior Gorg, with the green screen effects, to see that they're also huge. They're big old birds. Because first I'm thinking, oh, they're birds like our bird size. But like, no, these are like Gorg style birds. They're huge. And so that was just a cool effect. I was like, oh, cool. Those are big ass birds. So that was my favorite Muppeteering moment right there.
I also put the birds. It was just all the times they did them, both as the basket and the parents, were just clean, well done effects.
Oh, yeah.
And to have a non-Fraggle as like the center of a Fraggle Rock episode was fun to see something so different.
Yeah. And the baby bird was done very well. It was a cute voice and everything too.
It was adorable. So, Jarman, what happened on this week's episode of Star Trek The Next Generation?
Well, this time around, we have a cute episode called Manhunt, which you wouldn't expect from the title, but it is a very cute episode. The Enterprise has been ordered to escort 2 Antidean ambassadors, or fish people, to an important conference on the planet Pacifica. When they get on board, they are these giant fish humanoids who are in a stasis-like coma when they travel, so that makes it travel easier on them. So they have to be woken up slowly, and then they're fed tons of gross fish food when they wake up, which they show in graphic detail. It looks really gross. On the way, though, to the conference, the Enterprise is hailed by a shuttlecraft that they have to take another delegate ambassador on board, and it's Lwaxana Troi. That's right. She's back. Deanna Troi's eccentric mom. And she beams on board with her Addams Family bodyguard, Mr. Home. Which we remember from the previous episode she had. She bursts onto the scene and she tricks Picard into coming to dinner with her alone because Picard thinks it's a big diplomatic dinner, but he gets there to her quarters and it's really just a private dinner with him and her, with Mr. Home hanging out getting drunk in the background.
Yeah, he definitely watches.
Picard figures out real fast that she's coming on to him, which he apparently isn't interested in, so he quickly invites Data to join them and bore her with these technical anecdotes to calm her down and like make her bored. But during the dinner, we cut to Troi explaining to Pulaski and Riker in turn that her mother is basically entering Betazoid menopause, which means she's entering her sexual peak and will be desperately seeking a man to go to bed with and marry. And apparently her sights are set on Picard. And apparently the state she's in is also messing with her telepathy, which is why she thinks everyone around her is having sexual thoughts about her, especially Picard. But after the dinner, Troi tells Picard what's going on and that he can't just blatantly say to her mother that he doesn't want her or reject her advances because it'll greatly offend her in her current state. So he has to just make himself scarce for the remainder of her trip and make sure she doesn't see him anymore because just pretend you're busy. Picard does so by going to the holodeck to get into his Dixon Hill character again, which we had from a previous episode. And since Lwaxana can't find Picard, she starts surveying the rest of the men on the ship. Wesley is too young. Worf isn't human enough. And she goes off to find Geordi. He even holds up like his hand in front of his face, Mr. Holmes, saying that's where we're going next. He's finding the visor guy. But she ends up in the bridge where she declares that her and Riker are getting married, much to the protests of Troi, who's like, he's my man. Meanwhile, the fish people have started to wake up, so Data and Riker go to the holodeck to tell Picard, and while they're there, they tell him that Lwaxana's has proposed to Riker as well. So Lwaxana suddenly can't find anybody. She's like, where do they all go? So she gets the computer to tell her where Riker is, and so she starts heading to the holodeck herself. And she enters the 1940s bar in the Dixon Hill holodeck program, and the holo bartender, Rex, is immediately taken with her, and he's just like giving her all these compliments, and she loves it. And Lwaxana is fascinated by him because she can't read his thoughts, and she doesn't know why, because she doesn't realize that he's a holo character. So they sit down, they get to know each other better, and are kind of going on a date, basically. But Picard tells her they have to go because they've reached the destination for the conference. And while exiting, he tells her, sorry, that bartender isn't real, which disappoints her, but she goes to leave the Enterprise anyway, and she's like, fine, whatever, I'll go. And she's about to beam out with the fish people, but she reads their thoughts like automatically, and she reveals very casually, oh, those are assassins. They're going to blow up the entire conference. So Worf takes them into custody.
Just offhandedly.
Yeah, they're going to kill everybody, right? You knew that, right? Okay, you didn't? Okay, she's probably arresting them. And she says she may not have found a husband, but she did save the conference, so maybe it's not such a bad day after all. And then ends the episode. So, Steve, what'd you think of Manhunt?
So you're absolutely right. Your assessment of the episode name title does not match the episode. It's
a different example. Kind of Manhunt.
I got that eventually, but I was like, man, when does this kick up? And it never kind of did. Great subplot with the delegates that we find to be assassins in stasis. It was just a really good, funny cutback to check in on.
Yeah.
Like it was a good for the construct of the episode. Lwaxana Troi, great to see her back. Super strong character. Fun holodeck use that didn't feel super hokey. Sometimes holodeck feels hokey, and this wasn't one of them.
I like that it wasn't the main focus of the episode. That's kind of helpful too.
I did love the section where Lwaxana Troi is like flipping from member of crew to member of the crew. You're right, where she's like, you're too young and you are savage, which I like in a man, but I've grown accustomed to humans. I loved Worf's moment of what a handsome race was so good. So good. Her calling out Picard's dirty thoughts was funny, but then after you found out that it wasn't true, it made it funnier because Picard still blushed and still got embarrassed, even though
think anything.
right. It had been established that she was wrong. And then the great assassin reveal at the end, like that great payoff for that B plot. right at the end. That might be the best the B plot's ever been resolved.
And they didn't even say anything the whole
episode.
episode, barely at all.
Yeah. Something that I struggled with. This was weird, and I know why they did it, but it felt gross. They really played down Deanna Troi. If you look, she had like no makeup on this week. They purposely unprettied her.
I didn't notice
this
that
episode because they needed her to they needed her mom to shine. But if we rewatch this episode, her hair is down. It's not that huge thing. Her makeup is not there. I'm not kidding. But I know why they did it. They did it because they needed them not to be on screen together for comparison. That's why. But it didn't feel good. But watch it and you'll see it. And then I wish the holodeck could have been used a little bit more to serve the plot and not just a distraction. But otherwise, very few notes for this episode. This is a really good one.
Yeah, I guess they could have used I was thinking I couldn't remember if they used the holodeck as a solution to her menopausal problem, where they'd tell her that it's fake, and then she's like, well, at least I can serve out my sexual needs on the holodeck, get it out of my system. Kind of like they did it on another episode with Pon farr. I can't remember when that happens, but there's like a Vulcan character that has to do their Pon farr, but they're not able to get back to Vulcan. So they just have them do it on the holodeck, and it gets it out of their system so they don't die, because if Vulcans don't mate when they're on Pon farr, they die. So I thought they would do that with her, but they didn't. So that would have been some kind of resolution of the holodeck story. But,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, another low stakes, fun episode. We need that sometimes before we get back into the dramatic craziness of Borg and all that jazz. So yeah, and Lwaxana Troi is always great. And this had like 3 plots almost: the alien delegation, Lwaxana stuff, and the Dixon Hill stuff. It's kind of like all packed into one. I wasn't expecting there'd be the added layer of Dixon Hill. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Big plot for this one too, I guess. Our big budget.
One of my favorite moments, and maybe this is in your trivia, but there was a moment where Lwaxana Troi was talking to the computer to find out where Picard was.
Yeah. And
I had this moment and went, wait a minute, Majel Barrett is the voice of the computer. And I had to rewind it, and I was like, that's just her talking to herself.
Exactly. That's very true.
But that was just a great moment of realization of, wait a minute, she's just having a fucking conversation with herself.
And it's subtle enough that you don't really notice it at first because she does a different voice. So it's pretty good. All my favorite moments of this episode are all of Riker's shit-eating grins every time they're talking to Picard about Lwaxana being in him. He's just
anything.
Like, yeah, get it, Picard.
Sounds like a date, Captain.
And this huge grin on his face, like, dude, tone it down a bit. But it's the best. I love Riker's smile.
It's 2 takes Frakes, baby.
So now we'll go to some Trek facts. Not a whole bunch for this one. The scar-faced thug who bothers Dixon Hill in the first, that one scene. There's not the first guy, but the second skinnier guy who comes in with a scar on his face. He had crazy eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first appearance on Star Trek of actor Robert O'Reilly, who would make numerous appearances on Star Trek, but had the long-running character eventually as the Klingon politician Gowron, who he's made him more famous in the Star Trek world. He just tours the conventions with pictures of Gowron to sign, which is he's great later on. You'll see. And then also a tidbit a lot of other fans might know, but there was a cameo in this episode by Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac fame. He was actually one of the fish people in costume because he was a huge Star Trek fan. So they put him in the fish costume. We don't know which one he is, but he's in there.
I'm going to guess the tall one.
Probably. And he agreed to shave his trademark beard, apparently, for his cameo as this Antedian dignitary guy. So that's Mick Fleetwood for you, folks.
Well, it's funny that you bring him up because both of my Trek connections this week are based off the fact that he's in this episode.
Hey, there you go.
So yeah, the Antedian dignitary Mick Fleetwood. It is commonly held via interviews and other commentary that he is one of the 2 drummers that's the actual inspiration for Animal. The other being Keith Moon of The Who.
Nice. That is a connection.
Yeah. And then Mick Fleetwood played himself, or version of himself, in the movie The Running Man, which we also watched not that long ago.
Yep.
Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger played Prince Happy, or Prince Hoppy, I don't know, in the movie Around the World in 80 Days.
Yep.
Effects for that movie were done by the Jim Henson Creature Shop.
Nice.
Bam, Mick Fleetwood, Running Man.
2 other things we've reviewed on this podcast family.
Yeah, man. So good. Well, it makes sense because these episodes are so similar.
It's true. Both have a character reaching a new phase of life and needing their loved ones' help to transition. The baby bird in Fraggle Rock and Lwaxana entering her horny menopause.
Oh, I have something similar, but for different set. Both feature people waiting for something to emerge from stasis. The crew with the alien ambassadors / assassins, and Wembley waiting for the egg to hatch.
That's very true. Both feature a large creature being ordered around by a temperamental mother. Lwaxana is ordering around Mr. Holm in Star Trek, and the mother bird demanding her baby back from Junior Gorg.
Wow. Both have inappropriate attachments that are doomed to fail. The baby bird thinking Wembley is its mother, and Lwaxana Troi hooking up with Jean-Luc and then Wesley and then Worf and then Riker and then a hologram.
And them all failing.
All.
That's true. Oh, God. What's that?
Transporter malfunction.
Where are we going?
Transporter malfunction.
All right, it's time of the show where we transport one character from one of the episodes, then switch them back and forth like crazy. So what you got for us, Steve?
Trek to Rock this week, I'm going to bring over the Antedian dignitaries in stasis to replace the bird parents. Mostly because I think it would be a really funny cutaway to every time they cut to them. It's just those 2 fish people standing, staring at nothing.
And they'll really be in the water. They'll be like fish baby.
Yeah, they're in the pond.
Instead of a bird baby. Trek to Rock, I'm going to have Data trade places with Wembley because he'd love to have a baby bird to watch. He gets a cat later on in the show. And with his encyclopedic knowledge, he'd know exactly how to teach it to fly and to take care of it. Data would figure it out. I think it'd be great.
No, I think we would get like a mice and men scenario here.
I crushed it. By
Data
accident.
just crushes this thing. Trek to Rock this week, I'm going to bring over Rock to Trek rather. I'm going to bring over Marjorie because it would at least explain where she was this week and replace Lwaxana Troi. Both because I wish the trash heap had been in this episode, and I just love that her idea of her like sultrily making her trash heap way around the ship and flirting with people,
just leaving debris as she walks by.
Look at you, you're gonna grow up to be a man someday.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, big man, Marjorie.
That'd work out pretty well. Rock to Trek, I'll have Doc trade places with Picard because he seems like a pretty lonely guy, and I think he'd be happy to marry Lwaxana.
Oh, you're right. Doc would be perfect.
They'd be a good pair, you know?
He'll finally show Shibble Finney.
Richard Shibble Finney. Look, my wife. She's great. She's beautiful. Sprocket would not be happy. Less attention for Sprocket.
and then Doc forgets his birthday.
Exactly.
God damn it.
Mr. Holm would be there to celebrate with him, though, so that's good.
He's just in the background lurking.
Getting drunk.
Yeah, he did get a little tipsy. You're not wrong.
But that brings us to the end of episode 147 of the MuppeTrek Podcast.
Join us next time for Fraggle Rock episode Boober Rock.
And Star Trek The Next Generation episode Emissary.
So, from the lovers, the dreamers, and us.
Live long and prosper, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the MuppeTrek Podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media on Facebook and Twitter.
Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
This podcast has been brought to you by A Play on Nerds.
You know, episode 147, I didn't mention. 47 is a very important number in Star Trek history.
Oh, goddamn.
Yeah,
well, we'll get it again in another 100 episodes.
Oh, no, this is going on the end. I'm just going to leave this in. See who gets it.
Oh, okay. 47?
47 is really important. They mention a bunch throughout like every series of Star Trek now. It's like a number that you'll hear repeating over all the time.
What about like 12? How we feel about 12?
12 sucks.
12, one of those Battlestar Galactica numbers.
Yeah, screw that. It's like a Babylon 5 number over here.
No, that's 5. You're mistaken.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah, damn.